I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The more you talk, the harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? No. You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Let's get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Dungeon Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this review is going to be for none other than 2009's The Road. And let's just say, this review might be a bit, and might be a little slow in this review because this was such a difficult fucking movie to get through. This was fucking depressing as shit. And also fucking terrifying at the same time. So, might be a little slow explaining some stuff because of how depressing this film was. Like, fuck. The plot of The Road is a father and his son walk alone through an entire burned America. You never really know what caused it. It's an apocalypse event happened, and now it's all reduced to this. Like, nothing moves in the landscape save the ash on the wind and water. It's cold enough to crack stones, and when the snow falls, it's gray, and the sky is dark. They're trying to get to the warmer south, but they don't know what, if anything, really awaits them there. So, as for my reaction, this was actually also a first-time watch, and it was hard to finish. So, this review was kind of hard to film, and it took a while to film, because of how hard to watch this movie was. I mean, it was by no means terrible. I mean, it was actually a pretty good film, but it's just not an easy film to watch at all. But so, how was The Road made? It was around November 2006 when Nick Wechsler used independent financing to acquire the film rights to the 2006 novel by Cormac McCarthy, because this is based off a novel by Cormac McCarthy. And when Wechsler had watched John Hillcoat's 2005 film The Proposition after reading The Road, the producer decided to pursue Hillcoat to direct the film adaptation. Wechsler described Hillcoat's style as a beautiful in the way John captures the stark humanity of the West, or then in April 2007, Joe Penhall was hired to script the adapted screenplay, and once learned his fellow producer, Stephen Palmage Schwartz, planned to have a script and an actor cast portray the father for pursuing a distributor for the film. And then by the following November, Viggo Mortensen entered negotiations to portray the father, even though he was occupied with filming Appaloosa in New Mexico. Then the film had a product budget of $20 million, and filming began in late February 2008. It went on for 8 weeks and moved on to northern Pennsylvania, Louisiana, and Oregon. Then after the film was officially shot and completed, The Road would actually go on to have a limited theatrical release in North America on November 25th, 2009, and then was released in the United Kingdom cinemas on January 4th, 2010. When it came out, it got positive reviews from critics, who praised Viggo Mortensen's performance and Cody Smith-McPhee's performance, and it got numerous nominations, including a BAFTA nomination for Best Cinematography. And I can definitely see why. I mean, because it's a very moving, it's well acted, it's well directed, and it's pretty well adapted. I've never read the book myself, but I've only seen the film. Alright, so here are the good qualities in the story of The Road. So, what makes The Road a good, not easy to sit through, heartbreaking film is that it is hauntingly beautiful and does well capture what people remember from the novel. And John Hillcoat's direction, Viggo Mortensen's performance, Cody Smith-McPhee's performance, and Charles Stewart's performance in the flashbacks, telling the story of Farson's journey through a post-apocalyptic world, just trying to survive and get to the South. You have a stunning visual style. You have these desolate, stark landscapes that really show the bleakness the world is, the characters that are inhabiting the world, whatever characters are left. The muted color palettes and the handheld camera really give the film a gritty, realistic feel, and uses sounds and ambient sounds really add to the atmosphere, creating tension and unease throughout. And Viggo Mortensen does give an incredible performance as the father. He displays this range of emotions, from fierce protectiveness to deep despair. When Charlize Theron's limited screen time, and because she's only in the flashbacks that appear throughout the film, she's also equally impressive. Like, she conveys the emotional turmoil of this mother struggling to survive in this apocalyptic world. Cody Smith-McPhee's portrayal of the son is very noteworthy in capturing the innocence and resilience of this child forced to grow up too quickly to be able to survive this world. And The Road is not an easy film. It's pretty much about the worst of humanity in a world stripped of all morality, but it is a film that does deserve to be seen. It forces the viewer to confront their own sense of morality and what it means to be human. So, how do we start off? So, we start off with our main characters, man and boy, who don't really have much names, really. They're pretty much on their own. They're struggling to survive this catastrophe that resulted in an extinction event, and it caused the death of all plant life and all animal life, and you don't really see what caused it. They're not trying to. The point of the movie is you're not supposed to really know what caused it. It's an apocalyptic world now, and so they're just now struggling to survive. Really, like, you first start off with this flashback of him and Charlize Theron's character kind of just normally enjoying their lives, and then some random boom happens, and I guess that's your hint of how it all started. And then it cuts to him and his son. They're waking up in the landscape, and they've been on this journey on the road to the coast and hope that they can find a safe haven and scavenge supplies in their journey, whatever supplies are left, and now to also avoid cannibalistic gangs that are armed with guns. And pretty much this is kind of their life ever since this started. Like, this guy's lost his wife, and the son's all he has left. The son doesn't get the chance to really be a kid because of this whole event. And John Hillcoat's adaptation of this book really doesn't really depict the end of the world that's really endured. Like, it trudges through ash and silence with the fallen son. It only encompasses the fate idea of goodness, and Hillcoat's eye for desolation serves the material almost too very well. Like, there's like no color in the palette, and that's the point of it. And I'm like, there's no color in the palette. It actually kind of gives the film that more doomsday end of the world feel. The landscapes look very skeletal, like feel really dead. The world feels stripped down to weather, hunger, and fear. The craft is undeniable. And like the camera even feels very ghost-like, and the soundscape groans with emptiness. And the cinematography is very impressive, and the character writing, well, the character writing I would say is not really amazing, but I don't think that was the point. You know, I don't think it's trying to have amazing character writing, though. Like, I don't think it wanted to do that. I don't think that was the purpose of that, because, let's face it, there's not really much characters in the film. There's really just our two main characters, a few minor gains, Charlize Theron, who's only in flashbacks, really, and, well, this one family at the end of the movie. Now, I'll mention later, like, a bit of the film has certain something, like, it's hinted at a certain something that's following them, and that's what's pretty much the payoff, is that it's actually that family that's been following them the whole time. Like, although the story is tense and it doesn't drag on, it's actually pretty paced excellently well. Like, heck, you know, this movie feels a little shorter than the 2-hour runtime it has. And that's the thing, I kind of wish John, what's his name? Was it John John Hillcoat, yeah, John Hillcoat. Like, I'm surprised John Hillcoat didn't direct a little more, because this is definitely a very solid effort for a pretty nihilistic, bleak film. Where The Road spent its time, where it looks and admires and acknowledges the relationship between the father and son. The important aspect of any parent's life is the well being of their child. And the man has to strive to keep his son healthy, fed, and ultimately alive. And pretty much abducts, so he's pretty much now forced to kind of duct him into the world adulthood in the earliest possible time. And even at one point, like when they're arguing, he acknowledges he's not going to be around forever and has to provide his boy with all the help he can offer so he can continue to survive and prosper once he passes on. Right there. And during one of their arguments, and this father-son relationship is actually beautifully portrayed by both our lead actors. The kid's not whiny or annoying, and their scenes together are actually beautifully portrayed well. Like, they give both fantastic performances and keep the film really going well right until the heart-wrenching climax. And so, then we get to our other few flashbacks. So, we get to the flashbacks where the man's wife, played by Charlize Theron, is pregnant around this time, and then her water breaks. And then she ends up giving birth to the son, literally shortly after the doomsday catastrophe that caused all this. But she starts to lose more and more hope. And then once the man shoots this intruder that invades her house, using one of 3 bullets that were saved for their family's last resort, she pretty much accused him as wasting the bullet to prevent her suicide. And she pretty much then decides to commit her own version of suicide by getting rid of her coat and hat in the cold, going to the woods, never seen again, yeah, but you know very well she died. Because the whole world there is really cold, there's no warmth in it. She took off all her winter gear, and she walked off into the dark. She died, she froze to death. She's dead. And this is a pretty well acted scene with our 2 actors, where you feel Viggo Mortensen's horror when he's watching her go off into the dark abyss. And you also buy Charlize Theron's grief and agony, knowing she can't really live this world anymore and just really wants to end it all. So there's well acting in this movie. And then we get back to the present, and there's this gang of cannibals who are trying to survive by basically eating any humans they see in their trucks, and they get spotted, and when they stumble upon them, the father then shoots one of the members, and now he's left with only 1 bullet. Right there. And so, at first it looks like he almost shot the son. But then he sees he's perfectly unharmed, and he cleans off his face near this pond. And then he kind of braces him, and this is an emotional moment, where you can feel how scared the boy is in this moment. And believing that he almost died, and so they have to continue on their journey. And a few more other stuff they do find. Where at one point there's this vending machine. They stumble upon this deserted mall. And there's a vending machine, and he sees his Coke, and he gives it to his son, but the son doesn't chug it down all the way and actually lets the dad have a little bit of it. Which is another nice moment. And then eventually they stumble upon... So after that whole day, they come across this mansion, and when they go inside to look for some more resources, and they see this trap door, and when they discover these kidnapped people that are locked in the basement, and they're imprisoned there to be food for their captors. And so, realizing this, they immediately flee, and you actually feel the horror in this bit. Like, this is a pretty disturbing, well-shot moment where the music feels very eerie, the score is very disturbing, the people themselves locked in there are very disturbing to sit through, because they're, trying to claw at them both when they're trying to flee. And then it gets worse because they can't flee out of the house because the captors or the Campbell people return. They're back. So, like, it becomes an even more harder and more tense situation they get themselves in. So they have to go upstairs and hide. So, pretty much, though, right there they're looking around and stuff. And while these Campbells are looking around, the man is about to shoot his son for that last bullet. But then, of course, the Campbells get distracted by escaping captives. So, in a way, I guess you could say maybe the captives, I guess, helped them out, almost, in a way. So maybe, right there, so, in a kind of a way, so maybe they thought, so I'm sure they probably knew that they weren't with them, and just happened to find them or something, and so, they likely escaped and distracted the Campbells, so they're finally able to escape, but it's a really close call because, like, it's a whole situation where you think they probably won't make it out. You think they'll immediately be caught. They'll immediately be murdered. And, like, these captives act very deranged because they haven't seen sunlight in a while. They've been locked in that basement for who knows how long. So you're very iffy and terrified on seeing either bit in this whole sequence. So this film does get disturbing at times. Now, when it comes to Cody Smith-McPhee's performance, he does sometimes eclipse Morrison's on-screen performance and shows just like his character, he's definitely mature beyond his age. Like, whenever it's that bit with the Coca-Cola, the boy doesn't just hesitantly gulps it down. He's hesitant to gulp it down. He doesn't actually gulp it down at all. No, despite the fact that he looks clearly starved and dehydrated, he actually lets his father have a bit of the drink and they share the drink. Because he sees his father's clearly ill. So he started on his transitions to responsibilities of adulthood and have to ease out their supplies. And with this ascension, he creates this crisis with Morrison's character. He understands that this boy must be more self-sufficient or because he's not going to be alive forever, but he also wishes his son kept some of this childhood innocence and a sense of protection of a father. And right there, like, you see through more flashbacks where he saw his once happy life with the wife and greenery sunlight all around, but cut to the present, and then he cut to the present. All that is dying out. No food, no first aid. People are now scavengers, and none can be trusted. And resources, whatever are left, don't last. And the landscapes look frighteningly real with the weather and zero greenery. And whenever they're encountering cannibalistic gains, captives in their basements for future food. There's this one old man who's played by late actor Robert Duvall, may rest in peace. In a small impactful role, there's this one thief, and at one point there is a bit where they discover an underground shelter full of canned food and supplies, which lasts them for a little bit. John Hillcoat and the cinematographer Javier Agros-Zarub really do well and terrific at painting this dead world from which to tell a story. Right there. From whether it's either the dead trees, the scorched soil, the skyline punctured by Masgro's past storms, come and like go. Like, it's a living hell of a dystopia to live in. It begs a question like, why would anyone want to survive in it? And I don't think anybody would want to live in a world like this. Like, no one would last a day living in this kind of world. Like, it is difficult to describe the film as enjoyable, but it's unremittingly bleak. And whenever there's a bit when something good does happen, it's only serves to make things look worse when things return to normal. So there's not really any hope in this film for really anybody. It seems like there's a glimmer of hope, and then it just goes downhill. The characters don't really get referred to by name, and it gives a more impersonal feel. And I like the characters don't really get referred to by their names. Right there, they're just really called man and boy. It kind of gives it a more realistic feel, and I don't think you're really supposed to really give them any names. And so then you get to the bit where they're referred down the road, and that's the scene with the canned food and supplies, and they're able to feast and bathe, Heck, at one point they see this waterfall. They actually do bathe in a water. They bathe near a waterfall. At one point they hear noises, including this dog. But the man thinks it's too dangerous to remain, and they move on. Although this thing is about to be revealed in the final act. Like, they're kind of throughout the film, there's something it feels like there's something following them. And you're about to see what it is. And then you meet Robert Duvall's brief character, this near blind old man. And it's time to father to share some food with him. For the brief scenes he has. And then the two encounter the campsite with these infant skulls on pikes. And they move away from the campsite because there's a tree mob descend upon a mother and her son in the meadow. And realizing who it belongs to, and knowing that they could be found and captured, they don't stay there, and they get out of there as quick as they can, after the mom murders both the mom and the infant. So, like, it also portrays, like, sometimes a certain place is nowhere safe. Like, that campsite, it seems like a fine place to stay, and then you see all the spikes there, like, at one point even, at one point, like in the beginning of the film, the boy also sees these like hanging bodies, and the dad tells him, it's not what you think it is. They killed themselves. And of course, once they get back on the coast, the man then leaves the boy to guard their possessions. He goes to find this beach ship, and he falls asleep, and their supplies get stolen by this one man, and the man chases down the thief and takes everything from him, even his clothes. And at one point, like, the guy's just stressed of losing stuff, and the boy's just stressed by this. Right there, and so, like, he tries begging him to, like, leave the food for him. No, you don't understand, he's gonna be dead, but he's gonna be dead. He's gonna be dead anyway, regardless. And right there, like, it feels kind of very realistic, and of course, it's my duty to look after you. Okay, I'm sorry. What did you say? Okay, I'm the one. And then, of course, then the guy, and then the father actually has this look of guilt on his face. And he goes back and leaves the clothes and the food for the thief, but the thief is nowhere to be seen, so you can kind of guess that maybe the thief probably killed himself or something, or probably did die in the end. Like, the thief looked pretty ill. In the scene we see it. Like, we're left in doubt that humans would abandon civilization in order to survive, and murder cannibalism are very starkly portrayed. And then you have the bit where the child's mother can't try to cope with whatever's going on, the awful new world she's now stuck in. But the man's too aware of what's likely to happen to them in the end, and tries to ensure they have 2 bullets in their gun for when they have no other means of escape. And this decent man is worn down by the difficulty of trying to keep them alive when there's like little or no food available. Food is rare to find, and if it's rare, you'll get lucky, but even then, those supplies will not last. And he starts to kind of lose a sense of right and wrong because he's anxious to pass on to his son, and then you're left with the impression that his son learned how to be a decent man from his father. And the time of the directing by John, between the scenes is very impressive. Like, the tension you feel during the scary bits, it has your body tightened right there. You hold your breath in order to watch scenes. You're also reduced to the point of tears in the emotional scenes for the characters. They're on a simple basis that really gets acted by our 2 leads is what makes the movie enjoyable and a powerful drama, despite the fact that it's a very too bleak and very nihilistic film. Usually, sometimes there's times when a film is overly nihilistic and bleak, it's not fun to watch, and you just don't care to watch the rest of it. As in the trope, too bleak, stop caring. Well, this film would almost fall into that category, but at the same time, the 2 actors make the movie enjoyable, and they make the drama powerful. And the direction also makes it powerful. So, it's an overly nihilistic, bleak film that at least can be enjoyed. And despite the fact there's also a few other characters seen, there's like, other than a few minor people they do meet, but they don't really play much of a role in the story. But the lack of characters does give the father-son relationship a lot more room to grow, and it's easy to appreciate the luxuries they do experience. Like, You watch these two starved people eat some fresh food, where it feels like one of the only few rewarding experiences in the film. Then by the time the final encounter does arrive, you get this thin threat of starvation, and it's really hard to tell whether the gesture or genuine is just another mirage. The ambiguity feels intentional, but the road isn't about redemption. It's about what happens when hope itself does become a relic. Alright, so now we get on with the finale of the movie. So, at the finale, after that bit with the thief, they go for this ruined town, and right there, you know something is going to happen, and one of the ambushers is there. One ambusher is there, and he shoots the father in the leg with an arrow. The father then kills him with a flare gun he found in the ship. And finally, the archer's female companion in the same room. And he thinks they were the two that were following them. But then she announces, "No, I wasn't following you." And then he pretty much realizes this and decides not to finish her off. And then leaves her weeping over her dead companion. And I guess she probably does kill herself too. Off screen. I guess she probably kills herself off screen. Because her partner's dead and she's got nobody. She's alone. So she probably ends it all. What I can tell she's going to probably do once she's off screen. So, the man and boy, who are now weakened, they abandon their cart and their possessions, and his condition deteriorates and he dies. And in this bit, it's a well-acted bit where the father's telling him that he has to keep going on, and the boy breaks down sobbing, not wanting to leave him. And then the father telling him that he sees himself in him. Like, it's a emotionally acted moment, man. At this bit, you know it's going to kind of end this way, but at the same time, you're like, oh no, fuck. Like, though, you kind of know, it's going to end like this, because with this kind of movie, he was going to die at the end regardless. With their states, he wasn't going to make it, even before the arrow. He was likely not going to make it to South. And the boy then pretty much spends quite a day or two next to his dead body. Because, the dad dies in his sleep. And then at that bit, he pretty much then goes up to the ocean. And it seems like he's about to shoot himself. Almost. But the boy gets approached by this man and his wife, and the man's pretty much like, put the pistol down. Don't put the pistol on me. Don't worry, I'm one of the good guys. And so then his wife and 2 children and dog show up, and it turns out that was the people that had that dog that were following them earlier, what made them flee the campsite. And it turns out like they were following them the whole time, and they were actually worried about him. And they take him under his protection, and before the boy leaves, he goes back to his dead dad's body and tells him that he's not going to forget, and then he leaves with them. But that's how the road ends. And let's just say this. Yeah, the boy gets taken in by another family, but it's honestly a full-on downer ending in my eyes, because the man's dead. The boy finds a new family to take care of him, but the world's still dying, and who knows how long that family's supplies are going to last. Probably run out quick. I mean, those two have 2 other kids and a dog, so don't expect their supplies to last. They'll run out too. So, and then if another family finds him after that family passes on, probably the same thing. So, even with this new family, the boy's fucked. And it's a matter of time before the boy eventually ends up alone, and then probably dies of starvation. It's probably what happens once the story ends. Like, it's probably what's going to probably happen eventually. Or this could also be seen another way. Either he does go through with the suicide, and maybe the family he sees is a hallucination. You know, maybe that's just his dying thoughts. Or either way, either that happens, or the family that takes him in is kind of just the last thoughts he's kind of having in that moment. It could be kind of his dying thoughts, because maybe he does go through with the suicide, but that's just what the movie wants us to kind of see, you know. But some might disagree with me on that. But oh well. Alright, so now do I have any bad qualities? So I would say for bad qualities is some of the character writing is not really the best, but at the same time, there's not really a lot of characters in the film, so I guess you can't really have amazing character writing. And the movie does kind of take a little long for really any kind of light to appear through the clouds, and you just feel too miserable halfway through the film and have much energy to watch the last act. And the last act is really the most depressing part of the film. Like, you saw so much depressing and disturbing stuff throughout the movie that the final act just kind of becomes very hard to enjoy. And that's another thing. That's the final thing. This might be a film that's really hard for anybody to enjoy because it's a nihilistic downbeat movie that has like no happiness and no hope. So it is kind of a hard film to enjoy, despite how well directed it is. So other than that though, I think The Road is a solid good film if you're willing to sit through some really depressing stuff. So in the end, The Road, I would say, is worth a buy if you're willing to handle some really depressing shit. Anyways, that's it for my view of The Road. If we're going to rank The Road, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you like the novel and want to see a film adaptation that also has some really bleak stuff and is one of the most depressing movies of all time, that would probably watch or buy The Road for your collection for sure, no doubt. And if we're going to rank The Road, I'm going to give The Road an 8 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my review for The Road. Now, I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think about The Road, regardless of opinions. And until then, that will be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.